Hello, everybody. I'm Justin Mauger. I'm the educator for Eastern Washington with the Washington Poison Center. It's my pleasure to introduce to you all today Sarah McNew and Audrey Curtis of the West Spokane Wellness Coalition. Sarah McNew serves as the coalition coordinator and project manager for the West Spokane Wellness Partnership. Sarah is a master of social work and serves as the project manager and coordinator. Sarah works to prevent substance use within the West Spokane community by, in part, raising awareness of and advocating for increased youth services and resources. Audrey Curtis is the West Spokane Wellness Partnership chair and also a master of social work. She works to increase youth mental health services, including developing and piloting grief and loss support group curriculums, and most recently working to advocate for restorative policies for youth in schools. Personally, I'm a resident of Spokane's West Central neighborhood. As such, I can personally attest to Sarah and Audrey and the West Spokane Wellness Partnership's reputation for community-level change and being folks who can get things done. They're a positive force in our community and focused on critical needs for the populations they serve. As such, it's my honor and privilege to introduce Sarah and Audrey and welcome them to Washington Poison Center's Overdose, Harm Reduction, and Treatment Series. With that, Sarah and Audrey, please take it away.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah McNew, and I am the coalition coordinator for West Spokane Wellness Partnership, as Justin said. And thank you, Justin, so much for that wonderful introduction and the kind words. I'm an enrolled Spokane tribal member, and I grew up on the Spokane Indian Reservation. I was an EMT for about 12 years, and like Justin said, currently have my MSW degree with minors and certifications in addiction, disability, suicide, and substance prevention studies. I've been a coalition coordinator here with West Spokane Wellness Partnership for 3 years. And prior to that, helped to develop and coordinate the Children of the Sun Community Coalition on the Spokane Indian Reservation. I'm a mother to 3 wonderful children and an avid animal lover, love to be outdoors, love the fall. Super excited about this fall weather and the rain. And I'm a certified coffee lover. Substance prevention is something I'm extremely passionate about, and I've seen firsthand the impacts of substance use and misuse within my own family and also community. I am an advocate, first and foremost, a community mobilizer and energizer. I really enjoy community mapping and program research, development, program startup. Really love identifying gaps and working to alleviate them. Just so thrilled to be here today. Again, Justin, thank you. Thank you to the Poison Center. I'm excited to share with you some of our recent community and coalition successes related to youth mental health and substance prevention. And with that, I will let Audrey also introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Audrey. I'm a recent graduate from Eastern Washington University. I got my master's in social work. At West Spokane Wellness Partnership, I am the community social worker, and I also hold the position of chair at the coalition, as Justin and Sarah already said. In my role, I'm going to be doing mental health and grief and loss support groups, as well as provide screenings, brief interventions, and referrals. A little bit more about myself. I also love animals. I recently actually got a puppy. His name is Coda, and he's a mini Aussie. He's so cute. You might hear him in the background today. He's in another room, so hopefully not too much. I also really love going on hikes, being out in nature and outdoors, but I really love and have a passion for helping people, especially youth, dealing with mental health disparities. That's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Audrey. The objective for today's session will be to learn how our community coalition is working to address youth mental health and substance misuse in our community, and how we're serving youth with evidence-based prevention programs, innovative programs, restorative policies, and at the core of that, community collaboration. And we really hope that you walk away feeling like you can be a change agent in your community and work to meet and serve the youth in schools, community centers, faith-based centers, and even a community coalition if you work and serve on one. Okay. As mentioned before, I'm the coalition coordinator for West Spokane Wellness Partnership, and Audrey is our community level social worker. West Spokane Wellness Partnership is a community coalition. It's made up of volunteers that live, work, and travel through the West Spokane community. We've been in existence for 12 years now, as of this September, actually. We just revised our mission statement this past year, and our mission is to eliminate barriers and increasing community connectedness, access to prevention services, and protective factors to reduce substance use and misuse in the West Spokane community. Community coalitions are rooted in several different theories and frameworks within public health models, such as the coalition action theory. But they really started with grassroots community mobilization efforts, where community members mobilize to create community level change around a specific topic or issues. Coalition members are the catalysts, the vehicle, and the champions for and of community level change. These change agents understand that in order to create systemic and sustainable level change, it needs to be a collaborative effort with shared buy-in. Coalitions have the ability to impact change at all levels. Substance use and mental health problems in Washington's young people can and has been shown to be reduced through high quality delivery of effective prevention programs and policies. More than 70 prevention programs offered through community coalitions have been shown in high quality research studies to reduce problems like substance use and mental health problems and to improve well-being. And if we're looking at the social ecological model here on the screen, our coalition actively
Sarah,
works.
sorry to interrupt, but I don't think the slides are moving.
Oh no.
It's still stuck on the first page.
Uh-oh, let's try that.
I think it's working now. I can see it.
Okay, you can see it? Can you hear me? Can you see it, Audrey?
Yes, yeah, I can see it.
Oh, okay, sorry, there was a lag. Let's try this again. Okay, so we should be on the social ecological slide. Sorry, guys. So our coalition actively works to create change at the individual, interpersonal, organizational, community, and systems levels, which you will see in the upcoming slides that we're about to show. Oh, my slides are frozen here. Did the slide progress?
No, it's not progressing. It's still stuck on the one that you were just on.
This is so odd. Let's try this again. I wonder if it's gonna make me do that for each slide. Can you see it now?
It did change. Yeah, it changed now, but for some reason it's not changing when you click it to the next one, I don't think.
Okay. So on the screen here, this is Margaret Mead, and she is a well-known anthropologist. And this is actually one of my favorite quotes because it reminds me of community coalitions. But it says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Our coalition's thoughtful, committed citizens consist of traditional partners like local law enforcement officers, school MTSS specialists, nonprofit leaders, business leaders, faith leaders, youth serving organizations. Our non-traditional partners include colleges, people in recovery serving organizations, aging adult serving organizations, probation officers, and so much more. And because of their dedication and commitment to our community, we have been able to see downward trends in our substance misuse data in the last 12 years of our coalition existence. Let's see if this works. We'll see if it progresses. Did it progress?
Yes, it worked that time.
Oh, okay. With our wonderful coalition members, we're able to provide evidence-based and innovative programs like Parenting Wisely, Positive Action, and after-school programs. We're able to provide public awareness media campaigns like Washington State Starts With One opioid prevention campaign, prevention science and program facilitator trainings like the Washington State Prevention Summit and CADCA Midyear. We work closely to research, modify, or develop restorative policies inside the schools and the community that we serve. One recent accomplishment our Spokane area coalitions had was working to pass a no smoking, no tobacco, and no vape ordinance in all 65 plus Spokane area parks. And with that, we also installed signage in the parks as well. We work collaboratively to complete community resource and needs assessments, which aid us in identifying what the needs and strengths are of our local community. And additionally, we provide substance education, including medication safety and storage. We provide free medication lockboxes as well to the community in hopes of encouraging people to safely store their medications to reduce accidental poisonings and overdoses. We became one of the first coalitions in Washington state to become a Narcan distribution site during the pandemic. This was huge, as many of you know, that even during COVID, we were also in the midst of an opioid epidemic. And so we wanted to be of service again to our local community, again, meeting people where they were at, and where we saw the need at the time was opioid overdose response, Narcan education, and free Narcan kits and access to those. Our overarching goal is to be of service in our local community, and that's really what community coalitions are, again, the change agents in the community around a specific topic. We were invited here today to share with you about how our coalition has worked to increase youth mental health promotion in our community as a means to decrease youth substance misuse. We'll dive into that shortly and show you some of our amazing projects and things and how we got there and the history and context into those. But I wanted to provide some context about mental health and substance misuse in general. Mental health and substance misuse together always reminds me a bit of the chicken and the egg story. Which one came first? Feel free to answer in the chat if you want. I'm actually kind of curious to see what people say in the chat related to this. It's something that we'll never actually know. What we do know is that nationally, 13.5% of young adults aged 18 to 25 had both a substance use disorder and a mental illness in the past year. We know that deaths due to drug overdose among adolescents nearly doubled from 2019 to 2020. This actually rose from 282 deaths to 546 deaths, so almost doubling. 1 in 6 youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. And we know that youth use substances to self-medicate. We know the symptoms of mental health disorders and substance misuse mimic each other. We know that when mental health disorders go undiagnosed and untreated, that substance use and misuse increases. And we know that adolescent brains are not fully developed until the age of 25, which creates additional concerns as well. We know that substance use and mental health disparities can have negative impacts on youth, like lower school attendance, lower grades, increased likelihood of dropping out before graduating, poor peer-to-peer relationships, decreased social skills, disengagement from sports, from after-school activities and clubs, conflict with the family unit and family management skills, increased suicidal thoughts and risky behavior, whether that risky behavior is violence, sexual behaviors, crime. And with substance misuse and mental health disparities on the rise, not only nationally, but also locally, we had to do something to help meet the need in our local community. In the pandemic, we worked with a local coalition partner, and that partner was Whitworth University. And we utilized a group of student researchers. These researchers dove into an incredibly heavy task, which was to evaluate our community during a pandemic. They were looking at what resources were being provided, what wasn't being provided, what were the gaps. They then reported their findings back to our coalition with their recommendations. The student researchers identified a need for a more extensive focus on youth mental health promotion, as a substance prevention strategy. And they also wanted an increased need for culturally relevant and equitable services and resources. Simultaneously, during the same time, our 2021 Healthy Youth Survey data was telling us a very similar story, which was that we needed to do something to increase mental health promotion while working to decrease substance use and misuse with youth specifically in our community. I wanted to provide a little bit of context about the difference between promotion and prevention, as often the two terms can be confused with one another. Mental health promotion attempts to encourage and increase protective factors and healthy behaviors that can help prevent the onset of a diagnosable mental disorder and reduce risk factors that lead to the development of a mental disorder. It also involves creating living conditions and environments that support mental health and allow people to adopt and maintain healthy lifestyles. Or a climate that respects and protects basic civil, political, social, economic, and cultural rights. More specifically, mental health can be promoted through early childhood interventions, things such as home visits for pregnant women, preschool psychosocial activities, by providing support for children, skill building programs, child and youth development programs, with programs targeted at vulnerable adults, by incorporating mental health promotional activities in schools like violence prevention programs and support groups. Prevention activities work to educate and support individuals and communities to prevent the use and misuse of drugs and the development of substance use disorders, such as public awareness campaigns, community outreach, evidence-based and innovative programs in classrooms or with groups, and interventions with groups who may not be at risk, whom are at risk, whom are a subgroup of a population who might be at risk, policies and environmental strategies like social host ordinances that help to reduce underage alcohol consumption. There's certainly intersections between the two, but again, the overarching goal really is to increase protective factors, decrease risk factors, create safe and healthy and inclusive environments that create healthier youth and families for the long term. And there will be an opportunity for questions at the end as well. Our 2021 Public Healthy Youth Survey data, again, that mirrored what the Whitworth student researchers were also telling us with their recommendations and findings, was shocking and it was heartbreaking. 70% of 10th grade students felt nervous or anxious for the 2 weeks prior to taking the survey. 58% were unable to stop or control worrying. 40% felt sad or hopeless. 22% considered attempting suicide in the past year. 17% actually made a suicide plan, and 9% attempted suicide in the past year. The 8th and 12th grade data wasn't too far off from the 10th grade data, which was equally just as concerning. Our school counselors had caseloads of 30 to 60 students, and some of our schools have 1,500 students. And if over half of those students, as evidenced by our data, are experiencing ongoing anxiety, worry, depression, the need is far larger than one school counselor's capacity to address in a single year. We sat on all this information for a while, outside of sharing it with our coalition members, and we really just weren't sure what to do with it. Historically, mental health promotion has not been considered a primary substance prevention strategy with our funding sources. For youth, even though we know mental health and substance misuse are heavily correlated and intersected, it just hasn't been something that has historically been done. Myself and Audrey served as an intern with our coalition for over a year, and we just kind of threw her in, and her and I, we dove into the Whitworth student evaluations, into our community data, and we started to evaluate individual organizations in our community, who was offering what, to whom, what were the barriers to accessing those services. And what we found were a bunch of amazing organizations trying to serve all of the youth in need in our community, but they were inundated with need before the pandemic, and the need only increased during and because of the pandemic. And these organizations were doing the best to meet the needs, but still continued to have incredibly high wait lists, some of which were up to 2 years. You had to be a client of that specific organization to access their current and existing services or resources, had to have insurance or money to pay for those services. And some of those services were weekly visits, which adds up very quickly. Have a diagnosis, had to have transportation or internet access to attend the appointments, or have experienced a recent crisis or emergent situation that would warrant services and resources. What we didn't find were highly accessible youth mental health services with low barriers in places where youth were already at. Prevention really is about getting just upstream of the problem before a crisis. And I'll share one of my favorite prevention stories with you. with you all, and some of you have probably heard it before, especially if some of my teammates and prevention colleagues are on here. But in this story, a person fishing in a river sees someone being carried downstream, and this person is struggling for their life. They are at risk of drowning. This individual pulls that person out, but more and more people keep being carried downstream, needing to be rescued. And exhausted from constantly pulling people out of the river, they go upstream and they try to figure out why people are falling into the water in the first place. They notice an old wooden bridge with several planks missing, and see that when some people try to jump across the hole, they don't make it and they fall into the river. It's clear that the bridge needs to be repaired to keep the people from falling into the river. And this story helps remind us that we not only have to intervene with the individual by pulling them out of the water after harm has already occurred and treating their long-term consequences because of the fall and because of the near drowning, but we also have to catch them at the community level before they fall in the first place. As it was sitting, a good majority of youth in our community were being served after they had fallen into the water. We had to think of a plan to reach these youth before they fell in. On this slide, the broken planks on the bridge from the prevention story are made of wood. Wood that is generally cedar or oak. I don't know, I'm not a woodsman or craftsman, but I know that that's a few different types of wood. And but for the sake of this presentation, we'll refer to the wooden planks as access. And with access, we can repair the bridge and catch people before they fall in. Our wood access planks for youth mental health services needed to be free. They needed to have no qualifications, no mental health diagnosis required, no insurance or lack thereof required, no emergent or crisis situation, no referral, no higher education or licensure for someone to treat the youth. And we needed to meet the youth where they were physically at, which for us was at our local area schools. We needed to be able to screen and identify the kids early on as well. As I mentioned in the earlier slides, coalitions are incredible because they're made up of volunteers, and all the work that is done is for the community, by the community. And they work because of the mobilization around an issue and because they become energized to create community level change that's sustainable. Okay, so now we're getting to the good stuff. Coalitions, they generally refer to the strategic prevention framework and the work that they're doing. I'm sure my colleagues are on here thinking that, oh my gosh, I can't believe she just brought this up. But yes, I love the SPIF for short, the Strategic Prevention Framework. I love it because I know that it works and I've seen it work firsthand. And it's a systemic community-based approach which aims to ensure that substance abuse prevention programs can and do produce results. The idea behind the SPIF is to use the findings from public health research along with evidence-based prevention programs to build capacity within states and the prevention field. This in turn will promote resilience and decrease risk factors in individuals, families, and communities. Some of the same risk factors discussed on previous slides, like anxiety, poor social skills, lack of connection to peers, to schools, substance misuse, etc. Our coalition had assessed our community needs via our student research team and via our local data. The next steps were even heavier, but much more enjoyable. We began to increase access to youth mental health programs in our community by increasing our coalition and its membership's capacity. All right, Audrey, I believe it's you.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. So while building capacity in a community, we piloted an innovative youth mental health support group with very successful outcomes. Youth self-registered for the group and were referred by parents and caregivers or school counselors. We hosted the group at a local middle school with 5 participants, and the group was the topic was anxiety. So we looked at anxiety, worrying, stress, because our local data had showed us that this was where our greatest need was at. We saw increases in students who, after they did the group, we saw increases in students who felt that they were a person of worth and they had taken positive attitudes towards themselves. Even though our pre and post survey data had showed that that there was increases in successes, what we were most thrilled about was the anecdotal data that came straight from the youth. One youth in particular said that their favorite thing about the group was having someone to talk to. This to us is what felt the most impactful, because as you see on this graph, the last bar, it shows that 15% of Spokane 10th graders in 2021 felt they had no adults to turn to when feeling sad or hopeless. The fact that we could be there for this small group of students provide a safe space for them to talk was so important to us. During this time, we also did a lot of outreaching to our local behavioral mental health committees, managed care organizations, and state leaders, advocating for mental health promotion as a primary prevention strategy, but also increasing and raising awareness about the need for more accessible youth mental health services in our community. As well, at the same time, we were actively researching allowable evidence-based programs on the Excellence in Prevention Strategy list. And through our research, we found one program in particular that met the needs we had and the risk and protective factors we were trying to address. We wanted it to connect and engage youth with their peers and schools by increasing opportunities for youth connection, self-esteem, and well-being related to mental health. We found a program called Curriculum-Based Support Groups, CBSG for short, by Rainbow Days. Perfect, thank you, Sarah. So CBSG is a multicultural evidence-based prevention intervention. It is allowable with CPWI grant funds from the Excellence in Prevention Strategy list. It is for selected and indicated youth between the ages of 4 and 17. Selected participants are those who are part of a subgroup. So for example, that would be a teen and determined to be a risk, whereas indicated is for those who are already showing signs of substance misuse or problems. For example, those would be youth already seeing a school counselor and or using substances. Their curriculum can be implemented in schools, community-based settings, faith-based settings, shelters, group homes, and transitional settings, making it a very accessible curriculum for a variety of different settings. This support group helps to increase youth resiliency to create positive and healthy futures through making meaningful connections with youth experiencing trauma, anxiety, depression, and toxic stress. Unexpected times of crisis, such as the pandemic, have been linked to stress-related emotional, social, and health problems by overwhelming a child's coping abilities. Evidence-based facilitator-led SEL curriculum, such as this one, delivered in a support group format, helps children and youth increase resilience, develop healthy social, emotional, and decision competencies, and avoid antisocial, rebellious, and delinquent behaviors, including substance use and misuse. This intervention is implemented by a trained facilitator once a week for 12 weeks in 1-hour sessions. It's held in small groups in the community or school, as I said before, up to 10 members per group. So a little bit more about CBSG. Sessions cover a wide range of topics. On the screen, it lists each week's session topic. So the sessions teach the youth how to value themselves, identify and cope with difficult feelings, how to handle anger, set and achieve goals, make healthy decisions, build friendships, and resist negative peer pressure. There are 2 additional sessions required for the indicated youth that discuss substance use and how to cope with change and challenges. These sessions work to demonstrate the CBSG's core messages of self-awareness, social awareness, and competence, relationship skills, responsible decision-making, and a sense of purpose and future. This support group gives youth a safe space to share their feelings and offers peer support. Sessions include a guided discussion and interactive learning activities. And then just to continue on with what I just shared, they did an evaluation and some of those outcomes for the youth were very positive. The youth participants of the program have demonstrated an increase in anti-substance use attitudes and intentions, improved classroom behavior and academic success, hope for the future, improved problem-solving skills, self-awareness, confidence, giving and receiving help, use of coping skills, and an increase in positive relationships and empathy. So that's a lot of information, but basically this program is very good and it's has shown to be work, and it's evidence-based. And yeah, so next slide, Sarah. We did have a video for you guys today, but unfortunately we are unable to play due to some settings issues, but we will have a link to the videos with our presentation that we would love for you guys to watch. Virtually, this video is just another deep dive into what the program is, and definitely explains it a little bit better than what I just did. But another key aspect of this curriculum, it offers very affordable facilitator training and implementation of the program. So facilitator training is $300, and it is a 2-day online training for about 7 hours total. Another thing that is really great about this program is there's not a lot of additional materials needed. You basically just need the facilitator manual, which is $150, and it comes with a lot of the already printed activities that you can do with the youth and guided discussions and whatnot. But so yeah, our coalition has very limited grant funds, and this program has made it very financially feasible for us to implement. All right, so with our outreach and the need for accessible youth mental health services in schools for youth with no barriers, we not only extended our coalition's capacity and reach for this program, but we also extended it at the regional level. We now have 10 trained facilitators in the region, and just this year, they'll be implementing the support groups in 8 different schools. If each facilitator hosts just one group with 10 students, then 100 youth will be served. It sounds small in hindsight, but if we just help save one youth, then that's all that matters. Our coalition and others across the region are now in the planning and implementation phases of the SPF related to the specific program. So for example, our coalition aims to host 2 groups this year and serve 20 students. Following each program implementation, we will evaluate the program for effectiveness and outcomes. In turn, we are destigmatizing conversations around mental health with youth. We all have a brain and we have thoughts and feelings. Therefore, we all at some point will probably experience a mental health disparity, whether that be stress, anxiety, worry, grief. We all are beginning to create We are trying to begin to create a culture for youth where it's the norm to talk about mental health, and in connecting them to themselves, each other, in their schools, and positive, safe adults in their community. And if you think that's really amazing, we're not even finished yet. So while completing our community resource needs assessment and engaging in the community outreach advocacy efforts, additional needs were identified and met. These needs identified were for early screenings and identification of youth through more universal measures, such as classroom settings, youth centers, school environments, as well as the need for increasing staffing capacity of boots on the ground workers that could do this in a mobile manner, as well as provide grief and loss support groups and restorative practice that help to get youth identified and connected to services sooner. To meet this need, Sarah and the coalition worked with our local colleges about the MSW student internship program. Interns were placed in the coalition for 20 hours per week up to 2 years. And with the interns, we were able to increase our coalition's capacity to facilitate evidence-based and innovative prevention programs and interventions in our community, while simultaneously working with our local schools to build restorative justice policies that aid in getting youth screened sooner and connected to not only coalition programs and interventions, but outside entities such as housing, food, clothing, substance use assessments, mental health assessments, and more. And like Sarah said, I was actually one of those interns. So our local managed care organization heard our cries for help, and we received a 2-year community linkage grant to hire a full-time community social worker, which is me. So I will not only be implementing the previous discussed prevention programs, but will also be working within the community organizations and systems implementing SBIRT, the screenings, brief interventions, and referrals. The key to identifying students early on before a crisis situation occurs and before the long-term negative consequences happen. I will be mobile in the community and accessible to our local schools, youth centers, libraries, and community partners who serve youth. Again, working with the community to alleviate those gaps. As we mentioned, one of the needs identified was a grief and loss support groups. Prior to the pandemic, our community had groups for youth who had lost someone due to cancer, but those groups closed down and have not since restarted. We continuously kept hearing from schools, parents, and caregivers that our community needed a youth grief and loss support group that were accessible and not only just for people or for youth that have lost someone due to cancer. In October 2021, in Washington State, there was estimated that 1,428 youth had lost a parent or caregiver due to COVID, and the numbers are continuing to climb. We know that grief and loss is also correlated directly back to mental health disparities, as well as substance use and misuse. Our coalition, after not finding an applicable evidence-based youth grief and loss support group curriculums that were allowable with our current funding, decided that we want to develop our own curriculum, and we piloted a group in the community with very successful outcomes. So the grief and loss group that we did was, we offered it once a week for 1 hour for 6 weeks at a local middle school, and we had 8 different middle school participants. And on the screen, it explains different topics that we did. So each session followed a similar outline, which consisted of an introduction of the topic. Then we went through group norms, confidentiality, sunshine and cloud exercise, and icebreaker, group activities, group discussions, and a conclusion, sorry guys, can't speak, conclusion with energizers and researches that help to leave youth feeling like on a positive note. So session 1 consisted of identifying and defining grief and loss. Session 2 was understanding the stages of grief and creating a personalized grief coping plan. Session 3 was identifying and expressing difficult emotions associated with grief. Session 4 was defining and normalizing mourning and memories. Session 5 was identifying community resources and supportive people. And session 6 was closure of the group and honoring their loved ones and reviewing that coping plan once more. So we did a pre and post surveys that were implemented at the first and last session, and the surveys consisted of 21 questions with 5-point scales. We saw reductions in youth who felt they would lose control if they thought of their loved ones who died, increase in their control over their sadness, decrease in feeling sick if they felt happy, increases in better sleep, increase in life outlook, and more. Once again, the anecdotal data was so powerful. Youth felt that the facilitators and members of the group understood what they were going through, and they were there to listen. They found the group to be calming. They enjoyed the kindness and empathy and enjoyed how accepting everyone was, and knowing that people cared, and it gave them hope. So most importantly, with this group and curriculum, we created a safe environment in an accessible space and started to normalize dialogue around grief, loss, and mental wellness. The program facilitators worked hard and intentionally to create rapport and relationships with the youth and create meaningful relationships between the peers. This helped destigmatize mental health disparities and empower the youth to identify and own their grief journey through different exercises, discussions, and activities. Here on the screen is a few of those exercises. The first activity shown here is called a script for a support person, and it's an activity we did in session 5. This script helps youth talk to an identified supportive adult about their grief and the ways that they need help. The script helps to initiate this conversation because it's not an easy conversation for anyone to have, let alone a young person. So we'd have the youth fill this out, and then they got to practice with their peers and with facilitators about how this conversation might go. The second activity was a fun drawing coloring page where we had the youth do this in session 6. This activity shows how everyone's journey through grief is different and helps the youth identify how they can navigate this. So here comes a little fun part. I thought it would be fun if we did a rapport building activity that we did with the youth at the beginning of each session. This activity helped youth to open up and start to identify their feelings in a way to express themselves and feel safe with sharing before diving into those deeper topics. This activity is called Sunshine and Cloud. I have little cutouts here, but basically what this activity is we'd have youth sit in a circle around a table, and they would share one positive thing that happened in their week, which is the sunshine, and then one thing that didn't go so well, which is the cloud. And so, for example, I can go, my sunshine, I would say, is being here today and presenting this presentation to you all. And then I think my cloud would be, I had to take my puppy to the vet last night, which was not so fun. But I would love if everybody in the chat could share a sunshine and a cloud for the week. If you have any questions, if I didn't explain that well, let me know in the chat and I can explain it again. But I would love to hear everyone's responses and just see how everyone's week is going. And this, yeah, like I said, this activity was really just to help open up the youth to talk about just anything in their life. And then it would be easier to start those harder conversations. But yeah, I'll let you guys answer those in the chats for a few minutes and then maybe we can share a few of those out. I don't know if Sarah, you wanted to share a sunshine and cloud for the week, but you can if you want. And Justin too.
Sure. My sunshine was my kids started school today. It has been a wonderful summer spending time with them and doing all sorts of fun activities, but they were ready to go back. I was ready for them to go back. And my cloud would be also, yeah, I have a senior dog, he's 12, and he has also been in and out of the vet this past week specifically. So that would be my cloud. And I don't know, Audrey, can you see anything coming into the chat? Because I cannot on my screen.
No, I think it's on the Hoover app and we don't have
Oh.
that open, but if Justin wanted to share any of those, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely, I can share what was written on the Hoover app. I'm going to look right over here for a second. So we have Minette says, sunshine, my manager is kind and supportive. The cloud is my dad's hospitalized, but he's okay. So that's a good thing.
That's hard.
Velvet says, the sunshine is getting to attend the conference and learn so much good information. The cloud is being unable to get good rest. Becky states, sunshine, I'm at the beach. Hopefully it's sunnier there than it is in Spokane today. The cloud is I have to work while here at the beach, I assume. Sarah says, my sunshine, my boys are getting along great while I'm at work today, and they had a great first couple of days at school. The cloud being my oldest just got stung by a yellow jacket and his foot is swelling, so I feel bad I'm in the office and not there to take care of him, but sunshine, I have a great friend nearby to take care of him. And just so you know, Sarah, also, if there is any complication, you can call the Washington Poison Center at 1-800-222-1222. We do handle animal stings and bug bites and things like that as well. Tabitha says, my sunshine for the week is purchasing tickets to see my brother in Arizona, and my cloud is dealing with exhaustion this week. And for me, the sunshine is just, getting to see all these people working together through this conference. I think the common thread I see between the clinical and the community track is just that desire to save lives and to help people live the best life possible. And that's really special to me. I think the cloud is just dealing with tech issues. It's always a challenge, but that's pretty minor compared to the goodness that I see. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Justin, and thank you for everyone sharing in the chat. I will hand it back over to Sarah now to finish up our presentation.
Thanks, Audrey. Those are just some of the, that's just a fun exercise to do with the youth, but also just a kind of cool and easy, simple tool that maybe you guys can take back to youth and groups that you work with. Whether you utilize the CBSG curriculum or not, it just might be a nice tool to add to your tool belts. All right. As referenced in the previous slides, our coalition has worked really hard in our community with schools to build capacity for education around restorative policies and change around restorative policies. We work really closely with these schools to provide education, awareness, and advocacy on their policies specifically, and we try to encourage them to advertise their policies. We want kids to be able to know what is expected of them and what the consequences are. And so we really try to encourage schools to have parent handbooks, to have parents and caregivers and students sign and acknowledge the policies in those handbooks, to have them advertised online, to have them advertised inside the schools on signage, that sort of thing. We really are trying to work to encourage schools to utilize suspension and expulsion as a very last resort. We want kids to get identified early on so that they can get screened early on, so they can have brief interventions early on, so they can get referred early on. And at the kind of core of that, we want these youth to have follow-up, ongoing follow-up, not just once, but also multiple times. And so we've been really heavily working with schools in order to do that. And we have an incredible restorative policy toolkit that we've been working on this past 2 years with our amazing coalition members and our policy work group, and a ton of research has gone into this, including having tools for student athletes and their parents and caregivers, where it provides education around sports injuries and opioids and prescriptions related to sports injuries. And so we're also trying to build that into school policies as well. So if anybody is interested in accessing that toolkit, you'll have an opportunity at the end of this presentation. We have an evaluation, and on the evaluation, you can scan the QR code and provide us your contact information and request that toolkit from us. You can request our grief and loss support group curriculum as well. And if you need a facilitator training on that, we can provide that as well. With each recommendation on our restorative policies with schools for their disciplinary rubrics, we really do want student buy-in. And so we really are trying to encourage schools and their staff, anyone who's involved with the disciplinary process, to be trained in motivational interviewing, because we do want each person to be able to talk to the youth in a way in which the youth can have shared buy-in on their plan for change. And we try to heavily encourage and promote that. I know we're getting short on time and you guys probably have questions. I wanted to take the time to show you some of our amazing coalition members. These are the people who are invested in their community and doing this incredible work. So Audrey and I are just two of the staff doing this work, but all of our coalition members, as we said earlier, are volunteers. They all have full-time jobs and families and all the things. So I always say that if you're someone who says someone should do something about that, that someone can absolutely be you, and that someone can absolutely be you with a community coalition. We have several coalitions across the region doing similar work to us. So as you see on the screen, there are so many of us from so many different walks of life working together for the greater good of our community and making long-term sustainable change. Just really quickly, in the top left-hand corner with the Christmas image, those are some of our business partners, our health insurance providers, Spokane Juvenile Detention probation officer. We have our Indigenous partners. We do an Indigenous wellness workshop and Native after school programs and family programs. Here is some of our school and youth serving organization staffs in the top right-hand corner. This was during COVID. We did a drive-through food distribution and also medication lockbox distribution. Anyone who got food also got a lockbox that was stuffed full of different substance education. The bottom left-hand corner, our coalition goes and does tours in the community, and this was of the Pride School here in Spokane, Washington. They do incredible project-based work. In the middle down here, this was our Art Dojo project during the pandemic. We worked with poet Jordan. If you guys haven't heard of him, he's incredible. He has a website, you can Google him. But we worked at the Juvenile Detention Center to host an Art Dojo workshop, and the youth created murals and poetry and all sorts of things, and they created these murals themselves. This is the dream mural in the background that the youth created, and to date they have 5 murals up. And they also have an Art Dojo space, which is very much like a playroom or something where the youth can go and hang out. It has snacks and TV and art supplies and clay and all sorts of things. Bottom right-hand corner is our health district partners and other regional coordinators. And with our sign that we got placed in the parks, it says no smoking, no tobacco, no vape. And just really cool. These are just some of our pictures, but I like showing the faces of the people, the boots on the ground workers who are actually out there doing the work in the community. And the video doesn't work, but if you guys get a chance, maybe Audrey or Justin can put this in the chat. But this video, it's Rita Pearson, and it's Every Kid Needs a Champion. And in this video, she's so funny and so humble, but she really does try to just make a connection that every person has the ability to serve and support a youth in their community, whether it's through being a kind staff person in the hall of a school, becoming trained as a youth mental health support group facilitator, facilitating programs with Fidelity in a school or community center setting, whether it's becoming a mentor, a big brother, big sister, a coalition member, any sort of thing. Each of us has the ability to be a leader for a youth in the community and to use our voice for a platform for greater good. All right, these were just some ways that we can build resiliency with youth in the community, in schools, what parents and guardians and families can do, what healthcare providers can do. And I know we're running out of time, so let's just zip this along. And here's our contact information. I will leave that up for a minute, and then it'll also get put in the chat. And then on this last slide is our evaluation slide. You can scan this with your phone and the evaluation for us. That would be great and help provide any feedback to this presentation and what you would like to see more of in the future. But now we can open it up for questions. So does anyone have any questions for us?
Sure. If you do have questions, just put them into the Q&A in Whova. I don't see any there yet, but you'll at least have a few seconds to do that. I have a couple questions. I was wondering, looking at, you have a lot of volunteers that you work with, it looks like. You've been, apparently you're excellent recruiters of volunteers in our community. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your strategies for that, what's worked for you, any lessons learned, any advice, anything like that.
Yeah. I love recruitment, but I am a huge advocate of just being a good partner. And what I mean by that is I never ask someone to give me something if I'm not willing to reciprocate. And so I tend to build relationships first and foremost. I guess that would maybe be the social worker in me. It was drilled in my head to build rapport and relationship with your client and patient. And so that's historically what I've done is I build that rapport and relationship first and foremost and see how I can be of service to them. But I also try to find shared goals and objectives. There's many people that we work with in the community, and I'll give an example of our health insurance providers like Molina and AmeriGroup. We work really closely with them to do designated driver media campaigns, to provide vaping detectors inside schools, host Indigenous wellness workshops and cultural activities. And these are things that there's shared buy-in because we know that health, social determinants of health are impacted and substance use and mental health, and everything is correlated back to those mental health or back to those medical disparities. And so I always try to find those kind of shared connections between our partners and who we're recruiting to just align our shared goals and objectives. Hopefully that answered your question, Justin.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's all about those relationships, I think, huh? So one, I wonder for both of you, I wonder, since you've kind of started with the wellness partnership and working in the community, I'm wondering what surprised you in this work? What's something you didn't expect that was perhaps something you learned or an observation you had that was unexpected?
Oh. Audrey, I'll let you answer that one. Is there anything that you can think of off the top of your head?
Yeah, I would say definitely working with youth. I was surprised of how open and willingness they are to share what is going on in their lives, and just the raw and just like the open communication that they want to have with you, and that they can really identify what's going on in their life, and they can really express how and what they need. And a lot of it is just wanting someone to listen. But I think that's probably been like what surprised me, is just working with the youth and just how they react to different things and communicate what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Super. Then the last one I have, our Q&A is still empty. If anyone has a question, feel free to get it in there because we're about to wrap up. But if if someone were to just look at the title of your session, Addressing Youth Mental Health to Prevent Youth Substance Misuse, and they didn't attend this talk, what would be the one thing you would want them to take away, or one thing you would hope that they knew that you've covered in this talk?
For me, and I was even sharing this with Audrey earlier today, that this is something that's very feasible and obtainable. So often we think that in order to provide youth with mental health services and supports and resources, that we have to be a social worker, we have to be a licensed clinician, we have to be trained. And so often youth just need someone to sit with, to listen with them, to provide a space, a safe space, a supportive space, but also a space where they can just connect and have feelings of belonging among their peers and among someone that's safe. And for me, I think if someone was to look at this, I hope that they leave today feeling like they've learned of an innovative program, whether it's a grief and loss support group or an evidence-based program like CBSG or school policies. All of those things have the potential to impact a youth and create a healthier youth in our community. And so I hope that's what they walk away with.
And so we have a couple comments that this is an inspiring presentation and thanking you, learning new things. So that's really positive. We appreciate that. There is a question here. They say, great presentation. You are doing wonderful work. What do you think is needed for reducing youth substance misuse at a macro or public policy level? And thank you, Sarah, for the question.
At the macro level, we need more funding for substance prevention. I'll say that first and foremost, not just because of job security, but genuinely, I mean, we genuinely need more substance prevention funding. We have incredible community coalitions across the region and the state doing similar work to this. And it's people that are invested in the community, who are volunteering, who know the community, who live, work, and travel in the community. And so they're the ones that are investing in this change, and it's becoming sustainable because we're able to train them and empower them to do this work. But secondly, we need more social workers. And we need access to social workers that are mobile in the community, to where we can increase opportunities for access and decrease those barriers, whether it's transportation, insurance, that sort of thing. One thing that we're running into currently is youth want to access behavioral health services, but they also have copays, and they can't afford the copays, and or their parents and caregivers can't afford the copays. And so that's a challenge and a barrier that we've been running into at the local level. So if we can eliminate copays for youth to access mental health services, that to me would be just absolutely incredible and such a game changer for so many youth and families.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you both. We're about out of time. Thank you, Sarah and Audrey. We appreciate you sharing your work, your research, and really what you're doing to help our Spokane community. I really do appreciate it. I know, we talk at neighborhood council about this kind of stuff too, and everybody, we genuinely appreciate how you're helping us. So also thanks to our attendees for sharing interest in the topic, and to our attendees, the presentations and slide decks will be uploaded to the Washington Poison Center's website, wapc.org, so wapc.org, soon after the completion of the series. Thank you, and I hope you all enjoyed. There's one remaining session today. It's not too late to jump in there, and we hope to see you all again tomorrow. And again, thank you very much, Sarah and Audrey.
Thank you.